Welcome, everybody. This is Rotary E Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people who are working to make their communities locally, globally, and digitally all the better, some way that we hope you will find inspiring. Now, we are part of Rotary International, 1.4 million members around the world and 36,000 or so clubs. And we love sharing stories of cool ways that people have found to improve their communities. And to that end, we have speaking to us today Corey McNeil and Jody Lewen of Mount Tamalpais College. You read a little bit about their bios and their story as you came into this. If you were watching this on YouTube, you can find that material just below in the description. But I will hand it over to them to go ahead and tell us about the cool things that are happening with Mount Tamalpais. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It is an honor to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to start out with a few brief remarks just to give you a sort of an overview of what we do, how we do it, where we came from. And then I'm going to turn it over to Corey to share more about the program and its impact. So first of all, I'm Jody Lewen. I'm the president of Mount Tamalpais College. Our campus is inside San Quentin, and we are a brand new college dedicated solely to incarcerated students. The program itself, however, has existed since 1996, at which point the college was founded, but originally as an extension site of another school. So it was the San Quentin campus of Patton College or Patton University, for those of you from anywhere around the Oakland area. And we existed as an extension site of Patton for many, many years. In 2003, we created the Prison University Project, essentially like the college foundation, almost essentially as a fundraising arm to provide support to the program. And the whole thing just kept growing over about 20 years' time. And so fast forward to today, just a few years ago now, we decided for a variety of reasons that we wanted to actually become an independent institution. So we worked with the accrediting commission of junior and community colleges to become an independent accredited college. So today we are the only college of our kind serving 100% incarcerated students. But the substance of what we do is really very similar to a quality community college. We provide a general education, liberal arts, associate of arts degree. We have about 300 students enrolled. And we also have a very expansive college preparatory program. The sole requirement is a high school diploma or a GED. We charge no fees or tuition, and we don't screen students based on age, length of sentence, commitment offense, time left to serve in prison. It's first come, first serve if you have the GED or high school diploma. And I think what we take a lot of pride in is the individualized support that we provide to students, our commitment to academic excellence, to really taking whatever time students need, particularly in the very beginning to get ready for college, because about 90% of our students will place into college preparatory programming to begin with, and then making sure that they get a genuinely high quality associate's degree. And what we assume, just as a given with our students, is that we don't know exactly what they're going to want to do professionally, or what they're going to want to do with their education in general. So our commitment is to providing a strong foundation that will equip them to do whatever it is that they plan to do. But we do have many, many students who, after they are released, enroll, for example, at San Francisco State University. We have a lot of alumni continuing their studies and pursuing bachelor's degrees, but they're really scattered all over the place. And Corey can talk more about sort of what folks are doing and the ways in which the program impacts them. But a couple of other things I would add. Our faculty are all volunteers. Most of them are professors or graduate students from the local Bay Area colleges and universities. So they have the same qualifications they would need to have, to teach on their main campus, but they're working with us for free. And that's sort of been the tradition when the program was first started. It was cobbled together with no budget at all. And that was part of what made the whole thing possible, was that the faculty were volunteers. But so I think what's exciting there are many things exciting about the work from the standpoint of, providing opportunity for education to people who are incarcerated, but it's also hugely educational opportunity for faculty as well. And in addition to being committed to providing a really excellent education for our students, we're really interested in building bridges between the community inside and the community on the outside. So what can we do to make it possible for people to get to know each other, and to potentially even begin to, support each other as, they do whatever the work is that they're trying to do in life and in the world. But I would say, speaking personally, when I look at the sorry mess that is our criminal justice system and our prison system in many respects, I have the strong sense that part of what keeps that mess sort of a mess is the way that we as a community, as a society, are taught to imagine people who are incarcerated, really as if they were animals or sort of a subspecies or a diagnostic category. And I think if our collective understanding of who's in prison, what they're like, just an awareness of their simple humanity were more present, in the dominant culture, I think we would really begin to see change. So for me, I think that creating that kind of exchange function is a really important and valuable part of the work we do. And then I should also just mention, I think part of what is a challenge, but also a real opportunity and a blessing for us, is that we are funded entirely privately by individuals and foundations. So we're not reliant on the state or federal government for funding, which, obviously means you spend a lot of time fundraising, but it also gives us enormous flexibility, without, it's sort of free of a lot of the bureaucratic constraints that schools also often end up in, particularly when they're trying to serve a community or a population that has really particular needs, either based on their educational background or their location. So anyway, there's a great deal more to say about that, but we're really interested in, now that we've achieved accreditation, sort of discovering ways in which we can be of service, not just to students and our immediate community, but to the larger general public. So, and there are a lot of ways in which I think we're really building a model in many respects for higher education, which is really a hybrid of inclusivity, really, supporting students, whatever challenges they may face initially, but also maintaining standards of academic excellence. Anyway, so I'll stop there. And I'm sure I've missed important details, but I want to turn it over to Corey, who's the MTC Alumni Affairs Associate.
Yes, excuse me. Thank you all for having us and giving us this platform to talk. Wow, the impact of MTC has been like life altering. I've been connected with MTC for now 11 years. A little bit about my story, and you can see it. You can know about the significant impact that it had. I dropped out of school when I was in the 6th or 7th grade due to personal issues, trauma, and societal issues. Didn't go back to school till I was incarcerated at the age of 25 at a level 4 prison, which is like the most secure prison, where there's really nothing going on there, no kind of activities to where you want to become the better version of yourselves, right? So it's just pure self-determination. Went and got my GED, and that was like do-it-yourself education. I had to get that big old book with all the topics you guys may remember, science, social studies, math, and all the whatnot, and really just bear down and try to learn it myself. Fortunately, I was able to do that, and there was this void. I didn't know how to continue my education. I knew I wanted to continue in some shape or form or fashion, and there was nothing else but correspondence courses. And that's kind of lacking because I still need to learn. I need someone to teach me. I got to the GED level, but to get into the college level was really hard. And so I was transferred to another prison. And that's when I came across, at that time, as Jody alluded to, it was called Prison University Project. Ran across a newsletter, and it was at San Quentin. I was like, whoa, I need to go there. And so I wrote the college, asking them, gave them a little bit of backstory about myself, just like I'm doing with you all today. And they wrote me a letter saying, we're accepting you to the college. And I was like, I was mind blown. Like, cool, I'm going to school again. And so I arrived at San Quentin about a month later, and I couldn't believe it. It was literally in-person school at a prison, that time there, while I was in school. And she talked about the college preparatory stuff. And yes, I needed that. I needed to get that solid foundation, even though at that time I was like, oh no, I know I'm better at writing an essay than this, right? But that helped me appreciate the journey of things, of starting from the beginning and going all the way to the top. And so in about like 6 or 7 years, I completed my AA degree. But during that time, I also felt like I wanted to give back to the college. And that's what a lot of guys also do in there. And one of the ways is thank you. I became the college clerk because I knew that would give me access to students and would keep me learning the things that I was learning. And that access to students, especially for people like me who came from underserved communities or people who had trauma in dealing with education, I felt that I could be a bridge and like help them and motivate them and encourage them to keep on. You can stick with it. Hey, I did it. If you need help, you can help me. But also the impact, I would like to say that for me, it like changed the prison yard. Yes, it was a college operating inside of a prison, but it gave it that like college atmosphere on the yard, right? So now instead of guys doing or talking about nefarious things and things like that, they are now on the yard discussing thesis, discussing quadratic formulas, discussing Plato or Aristotle now on the prison yard. And, we all checking each other's grade. Hey, what grade did you get? And, everybody a little bit, I got a B, but that's probably a little flat, exaggeration. No, you didn't get no B, no way. And so now but what that did was motivate each other. Okay, he got a B this time. I'm going to beat him and get an A. And it just pushed us as we go. And so it made some great connections in there. But also, not only on the academic part, Jody was talking about where this community and that community don't know each other. Prison is meant to be an isolating place, and it can be, especially when a lot of guys in there don't have family or they've been in for so many years that their family members deceased, sadly. And so here come volunteers, don't get paid for any of that, coming in and teaching. They're not asking about, our crimes or how long we got. It's just solely education. And it just created that connection to where, like, because prior to that, right, I only lived in my world in these sort of blocks, in my neighborhood, right? Anything outside of the neighborhood, I felt like they didn't know me and I didn't know them, and I didn't care to know them. Nobody cared about nobody. But that kind of like changed when people started coming in there and talking about and treating us like humans, and that humanity part started coming out. And so teaching was a two-way street. They was learning about us as well as we were learning about them. And it like healed like some I would say like some emotional stuff that I was going to or wrong thinking that I had. Like I used to take things personally. And so when the first time when I got a bad grade, it's like, oh, he or she doesn't like me, because of my bad grade. But then I had to stop and like, wait a minute, but he got a bad grade too. So it's not personal. It's just, it's just me. And so it helped me correct some thinking errors that I had in my life. So the impact is any way I can articulate it, it would fail to raise to the level of what it actually is.
So powerful. I mean, it is excellent, excellent, excellent to get the story, the overview, the personal story. And for you two, as we jump into our questions, I do want to introduce the folks that we've got on the recording. When I call your name, if your camera's on, wave at it. If not, then wave at it anyway, and we'll all just pretend we know who you are. So we have our club treasurer in Italy, Cecilia Babkirk. We have a friend of the club, Heather Edwards, who is currently in Oregon, Mexico, Oregon. Okay, got it. And we also have another friend of the club, Aggie, who is in Merced. Good to see you as well. My name is Rushton Hurley. I am the programs chair of the Rotary E Club of Silicon Valley. But I'm really excited to kind of jump into these questions. So the first one, Corey, if you could talk a little bit about that sense of access to information. And what I mean by that is that one of the things that happens in a prison setting is there's a lot of, nope, you can only read this. This is the only thing you can see, blah, blah, blah. But of course, education is very much about learning about all kinds of things. And so that opportunity that you had, did it include a lot of, for example, technological resources to be able to learn about other places and things? How did that work given the way information works in a prison?
Yes. So, wow, I was thinking of one of the classes we had was 204, and that's where we learned how to do research-based writing. And so we would ask the teacher if we can research this, and he or she would write the topic down and go find it. And we had research assistants that would go and research the material and make copies of it and bring it into the institution and things like that.
I should also just add, if it's okay, Rushton, for me to jump in, just in addition to what Corey just explained,
Yeah.
we have just fairly recently in the last year managed to work with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to get permission to bring laptops into the prison for the first time ever. And what we're actually working on in collaboration with some other amazing folks is developing ways in which students can access JSTOR. If some folks are familiar with it, sort of a database of journals and periodicals and other primary resources. And little by little, we're putting together technological strategies that allow students to access research materials, but that also meet the security concerns or standards of the institution. So I just to mention that the research until now has been an extraordinary labor of love for the reasons that Corey just explained. But one of the things we're most excited about developing right now is the technological infrastructure to support student research, not to mention student access to computer literacy.
Yeah.
Which is critical.
So I'll add, by the way, for all viewing this, when we talk about the different resources that Mount Tam, and you refer to Mount Tamalpais in short as Mount Tam, is that right?
Exactly.
All right. That Mount Tam makes available to the students.
Mhm.
These are resources that cost money, right? If you are motivated to find a way to support what's going on with Mount Tamalpais College, you'll find the link under the video, but mttamcollege.org, www.mttamcollege.org. Now, speaking of finances, I would assume, and if it's kind of too early in the process to describe this, no worries, but I would assume that there is a line of thinking that essentially says, "Hey, wait, the number of prisoners who get an education, who then go out and find opportunities in society, means that the number of people who return to prison is going down, which means we're saving money as a society
Yeah.
on this." Does that factor into certain kinds of public grants or anything like that? Or do you have data that you can share related to that thinking?
Yeah. So we have, well, you're raising a lot of really important questions. I mean, one is, where I thought you were going to go was actually about public resistance to the idea of spending money on, providing education to incarcerated people. But exactly like you just said, there are tremendous cost savings associated with providing access to education inside. And so it's not that there are, although there ought to be, it's not that there are specific funding streams that are targeted to reduce recidivism in this fashion. But it's a really strong and important argument, or a point of fact for people to understand. But I would also add, in addition to reducing recidivism and therefore cost, you're also avoiding crime, right? You're reducing crime, you're preventing crime. And but the other thing that we hear so much about, often from students and family members, is about how another thing that we're also doing is really breaking what are often intergenerational cycles of undereducation, incarceration, poverty, lack of opportunity. So, one of the things that's very powerful as you start to understand it is the ways in which family members of students are impacted as a result of their having the opportunity to go to school. And so, in other words, it's not just that they don't return to prison, but when they come home, as you said, they're more likely to find a sustainable wage job, have a career that's meaningful, that they also then have the skills to support their students in their own education, to help kids with their homework or whatever it is, and also to model for their, not just their kids, but their entire families going to college. We have many, many students. I would say, Corey, would you agree? Like probably most of our students are first in their families ever to go to college. And so then the kids and the siblings and the parents or whoever hear about it, and it's often extremely motivating and inspiring. And so, yeah, there's a sort of ripple effect of positive effects of the program.
Yeah. And I would add, a lot of our students are contributing to different community organizations, and in terms of like social work and policy work and legislation and things of that sort. And they all want to when they come out, they all want to give back into their communities in some shape or form or fashion.
Gotcha. So a question that came in from the chat, and Corey, this one's for you.
Mhm.
What inspired you to become an adult learner? Like, you talked a little bit about the path opening up, but something at some point made you think, that's something I should do. And is there a moment there that really kind of stands out for you?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Um, I look at education as it was like a form of redemption for me. I know that I wanted to do better, but didn't know exactly how. And education set me on that path of how. And then 'cause my mom used to always tell me, my grandmother specifically, Corey, you should go back to school. You should go back to school. And so that was a way to show her that, hey, I'm listening to you now, and this is what I'm doing. And if it if it wouldn't have been for the education, I don't think I would have been like here today, because I was fortunate to get commuted by then Governor Jerry Brown. And so I had to write out my commutation and ask him when I petitioned him for commutation. I had to succinctly and organizedly write it out, and coherently and logically, and I think that was a big help. And so, uh, and so now that I want to go back to school, I plan on going back in January to San Francisco State to
Uh-huh.
further my education. And I know that that education for me was like the be all, the end all means.
Very, very cool. I tell students all the time, there's always going to be an opportunity for people who can compellingly tell a story, right?
Hmm.
The story of an organization, the story of a family, the story of a community, right?
Hmm.
Great stuff. Heather asked a great question in the chat, and it's actually another question for you, Corey. It was just kind of a personal question. Like, what are your favorite subjects, and maybe even the least favorite? Like, what really stood out to you in the things you were studying?
My least favorite was math.
Ah,
Yeah, I I have to confess, when I finished math, I took a semester off. Yeah, that was a mine. That's not my most interesting subject is sociology.
all right.
I love people. I love people groups. I love to study how they come up with certain facets of how to live and what's interesting to them. I even love it so much to the point of like, how do we just come up with normal sayings like, how you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. Or, oh, I wish I could help you with this. Just those little sayings that different communities have. And so that's my favorite subject.
Wonderful. Cecilia has a question for Jody, which is what is it like for the instructors to enter a level 4 facility, and how are they prepared for that? What kinds of things does Mount Tam do to help the volunteer instructors, professors, step into these settings?
Mm. Well, one thing I should mention, just a minor point. San Quentin today is actually a level 2. It's a medium security prison, but I think a lot of the question really holds. There are a number of different aspects. I think one thing that's disorienting is, as I mentioned, we're all sort of taught to imagine prison and incarcerated people in a really frightening way. And so I think people have all sorts of stereotypes or expectations, or concerns or fears. And one of the first things they have to deal with is the disconnect between the negativity they were expecting and the sort of positivity, the reality, the gratitude, and I think people who've taught, more traditional students and have then worked in a community college environment with more adults run into some of the same things. Just the joy of having adults who are there because they want to be there. They're ready for school. They're grateful for the opportunity. Some of it is as simple as that, just sort of adjusting to who your students are.
Mm.
But there are, I would say, many of our faculty have never worked with students who, in the beginning, are so intelligent intellectually and yet often lack basic skills in the beginning. And so there's a tremendous diversity of skill level or experience level in the classroom in the beginning. So teachers often have to adjust to, the fact that their students have mostly not been in a traditional positive K through 12 environment where they kind of learned in lockstep and know certain things about, an academic setting. So some of it is adapting to the diversity of needs and skills and style. But then I think also, there are a number of things. I think teachers need to really think through in the beginning what they're seeking when they come in. I think, obviously, very often the socioeconomic, class, racial differences between the faculty and the students are profound. And so, at times you do see people coming in, you could say almost seeking a kind of absolution, needing the approval or the validation of their students, needing to be liked. And the reality is, to be a good teacher, like Corey just alluded to this, sometimes the student is not going to understand the feedback or feel sort of negatively, personally attacked or just misunderstood. And as a teacher, just like, education is a lot like parenting at times. You have to be open and you have to listen, but you also have to be able to withstand the frustration or the disapproval of the person you're there to serve or to take care of, right? And so sometimes we really find that teachers need a lot of support, really just holding their ground in an educational sense, not imagining that their students are going to be extremely fragile or crushed if they get a low grade or if they're not instantly able to master the material. So it's really, in a sense, I think what many people expect is there are going to be lots of behavioral issues. It's just not that. We sort of imagine it like it's going to be juvenile detention or something. Like, no, students are more respectful in general than I think students you would ever find in any other educational setting, grateful, appreciative, all of that. It's much more what's going on in the teacher's mind, the ways in which they might overthink certain things, or even worry about making mistakes or offending, right? There's the kind of, there's a whole cluster of middle-class white people preoccupations that sometimes can be, I think, a little bit paralyzing for teachers at times. They have to just sort of relax and be willing to learn and just be open, and also kind to themselves. So, that's it in a nutshell. I think that it's a lot. And also I think they need to know that we do have plenty of students who've never been in a high functioning educational or professional environment. So they may at times not know everything about the nuances of like what's sort of standard professional behavior. What's the difference between a social interaction and a professional interaction? But again, if teachers are clear in their minds and communicate in a direct and respectful way, everybody learns, everybody grows.
Fantastic. So we've kind of hit our recording time. I'll hand it back to Jody and then to Corey for final words for all of you who are watching this as a video. You may well be on our site, on the SiliconValleyRotary.com site, or even easier, Rotary.cool. Yes, that will actually get you to our site. And if you are there, do the two things that you find below. Well, first of all, take an interest in the links that you see, but then fill out the attendance form, and that'll tell us, that where people are coming from, that kind of thing. It's good for us to know, our reach and things like. So help us out with that. A little farther down, you'll find the forum, and you are very welcome to add your thoughts to the different kinds of things that we have we have encountered in this, where the different thoughts that were shared as part of the program or any other element of the meeting those are things that we ask for your comments on, or you can reply to what other people have said as well. In an online and asynchronous service club, that is one of the ways we get to communicate with each other. As we always like to do, we hand it back to our speakers for the final word. Jody, why don't you go first?
Great. Well, first of all, as you very graciously mentioned earlier, if people are interested in supporting our work, we would love them to either get in touch or take a look at our website, which will guide them. But beyond that, we would really, really encourage people to just explore the website to learn more about the work, more about the alumni, the work they're doing. Corey also mentioned that it's really like a small army of folks who are out in the community now, really often just longing for careers where they have the opportunity to give back. And the work they're doing in the social services, in technology, in working with addicts or people who are homeless, or in the field of reentry, philanthropy, business, it's really remarkable. So I encourage people to just learn about the work that alumni are doing. But I would also say anybody who's interested in getting involved as an instructor, please also get in touch. And then, I would say if you're ever simply interested in coming in to visit the program, we also welcome that. So please do be in touch.
Excellent. Corey, why don't you finish us off?
Thank you once again for this platform to showcase Mount Tamalpais College. And I would say it just makes perfect sense to help and be involved in helping formerly incarcerated people continue their education or to even build their education up. Because at the end of the day, they are going to be returning to society. And they're just trying to be, even when they're at a time in their life when there might be no hope, and then there is hope, and they just return wanting to give back to the community any way they can, and we'll be a better off society for it.
Wonderful. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.